Welcome to Mystery of the Soul. I'm your co-host Leo, a psychic medium, a Reiki master, an EFT tapping practitioner, and a shaman. I'm joined by my good friend Julia, a doctor of physical therapy, yoga instructor, and Reiki master. Our podcast explores the depth of the soul, the spiritual, and the supernatural. Hey guys, welcome back to Mystery of the Soul. This is Leo, and I have Julia with me here tonight again. We have a special guest author, Ray Deekes. He's from the UK, and we're very excited to talk to him tonight. He is a soul coach, a mystic, an author, and he has a very intriguing story, it sounds like, coming up that kind of led to a spiritual awakening for him. And so, Ray, let me turn it over to you and introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself and where your story started.
Well, thank you very much, Leo and Julia, for having me here today. I am super excited. I'm very grateful. Let me tell you a bit about me. I've been helping people for the last maybe 6 years as a soul coach. People from around the world, to help them to reconnect with their true selves, so they can experience a fulfilling life. And I also have experience in stress management, health, and well-being, in CBT, in meditation, in mindfulness, for well-being and peak performance. Basically, what I would like to share with you today is a very special experience that I had 4 years ago. I experienced a mystical experience that completely changed my life. But it's important to mention that many years ago, 8 years ago, I was not spiritual at all. I worked in marketing and sales for many years, and I was very materialistic. I had a huge ego, and I chased the money for many years. And I was not spiritual at all. But I experienced a lot of stress and anxiety at some point in my life. And I was feeling that something was missing in my life. And that took me to change, to transform myself, by investing time to develop for self-development. For the first time in my life, I took time to connect with myself, to study what I wanted to study, to learn new things, something that I never had in the past before, because I was always running since I finished school, and then university, and then my first job. I realized that I was all the time running, and I never had time to be in the present time. So it was a very deep journey of transformation that I wanted to share, because people think that being spiritual means that you have to meditate all the time and to have a specific style of life. But basically, anyone can develop spiritually, and it's about opening your heart to connect with your true self. I wanted to share first this difficult time in my life, because everyone who is listening to this podcast, is important for them to understand that the spiritual journey is very unique and very personal, and it's different for every person. But everything that we are experiencing in our lives, it means for us to experience this for the evolution of our souls. Everything that we're experiencing is what we need to experience to evolve, spiritually. So when I had this moment of burnout in my life, I decided to learn about sorry, something happened with a connection. To learn about new things, to learn about meditation. But the moment that things change is my wife introduced me to this psychic medium at some point. She booked me an appointment with this person that is very well known here in the UK. And at that time, I was not very convinced about psychic mediums. I didn't want to go, to be honest with you, because I didn't believe that a person could connect with the spiritual world the way they were telling me. But because my wife booked it as a present for me, so I decided to go. But I wanted to prove her wrong. I wanted to prove her that this is not possible. So I used a different name because at these times you can search for information in the internet and find information about any person, really. So I used a different name just to prove her wrong. But the things that this person told me, especially about a very good friend that died 25 years ago in a tragic car accident, it was a very difficult time for me because basically we saw this person dying in front of us. We found the car upside down, and we saw our friend basically dying in front of us, and it was very traumatic to me and to different friends. But this person described what my friend was wearing and lots of things that it was impossible for him to know. And at that time, something shifted, because it was undeniable that this person could connect to the spiritual world. So I had to change my perception of what is we consider real and what is not real. And since then I started to be interested about spirituality. I started to read about it because it had a very big impact in my life. And because in this time I was learning new things for self-development. For the first time, I was free to choose what to study, because I wanted to study, not because I had to. And I've never experienced this type of freedom before. So that led me to learn about meditation and to learn about other ancient practices like shamanic wisdom and yoga, but not the yoga of doing exercises with your body, but the yoga to seek union with the divine. So, and then after that, some years after that, I had a friend that called me out of the blue a friend I haven't seen in many years, and she called me because she needed some advice. She knew I was a soul coach at the time, so she asked me about shamanic wisdom. And at that time, I was not very into shamanic practices. I mean, I was born in Peru, okay? So this friend asked me, thinking that we all Peruvians know about shamanism, you know. So she asked me about, ayahuasca and other practices. But I didn't know much about that time. Only some stories of some friends that had experiences with these ceremonies. And months later, she called me again, and she explained to me that she went to this sanctuary in the Amazon jungle, and that she had this amazing experience, and she shared all the details with me. And I was amazed because I saw a huge transformation in her. It was very, there's a new energy that was in her, from the first call that I received. So after that, she recommended some books and some documentaries, and some things that I could watch to learn a bit more. And she said to me, you should know more about the uh, the traditional wisdom from your own country, and that made that I was thinking a lot after that call, because Peru is a very religious country, so we don't really. When you mention shamanism or spirituality, it's completely discarded, because it all is referred to religion, But when I saw this transformation in my friend, I had this curiosity, this natural curiosity to learn. So I started to learn more about this. And 4 years ago, by that time I was meditating for maybe 3 years every day, and changing my diet, doing fasting, and doing lots of yoga, lots of practices. So I had this idea that came, I don't know from where, but I had this idea to use all this wisdom to try to connect with divine source. So I put together everything that I knew at that time, to look for a place in nature, to have an intention. For many months I had this intention to connect with the Great Spirit. And I asked my wife to come with me, to come with me, just to be there for me, because what I was trying to do is to go into a very deep transcendental meditation, to try to connect with divine source. So this was 4 years ago, and this experience is an experience that completely changed my life. So I don't know if you have any questions so far before I maybe go into detail about what happened that day, because it's a very it's difficult to describe with the unlimited with the limited, and words are limited, really. I can try to explain what happened, but it's it was just the most beautiful and amazing experience I had in my entire life. And I have a lot to say about this, and this is the reason why I'm here. Really, is about sharing the message that I receive, because the message that I receive is not just for me. It's for everybody who has an open heart to hear what I would like to share, and this is because of this experience that I wrote the book, because I was so moved but by what happened that day, that I had to put this together into a book, and on all this journey have been truly amazing for me. So I don't know if you have any questions so far before I go deep into the experience. I'm sorry I started a bit nervous today, but I always get very emotional when I talk about this, because it was, I've been into deep darkness. I have to be honest with you. There was a moment in my life when, I hit rock bottom, and that affected my relationships, with my wife, with my children, with my friends, with myself, with my true self. I was completely disconnected. I used to live in fear, at some point. It's not all bad, because it was all right for many years, but then at some point something was missing, and that made me work harder, because I thought that the answer was to get more money and to work harder, and to even feeling guilty of feeling like that, because I had everything I dream of. I had the house, the car, the job, the family, um, holidays abroad every year, going on 5-star hotels, traveling around the world, fancy restaurants, hanging out with what we consider successful people, so I was living the life, on paper, but I felt a big emptiness inside of me, and I didn't know at that time what was that, so that led me to, to work harder and to cope with short-term, strategies, denial and, drinking and other things, you see. So that you think is normal. You work hard, you party hard. Many people go like this, and it's fine, but it's not sustainable. At some point, something has to break. So now I see that as a blessing in disguise, because I see my whole journey as a whole, and that had to happen for me to. I was steering away too far from my path, and that situation helped me to align myself to what I consider my true path. So I'm grateful that happened. I'm very grateful, because of that I'm here now today talking, and because of that I've been able to help people. I really find joy. That's why I became a life coach first, and then that evolved into soul coaching. But because I wanted to help people that were in the same situation I was some years ago, and that gave me a sense of satisfaction that I've never experienced before. To do charity work, to work, to talk to homeless people, to help people that really want to make a difference in their lives, and that really made me experience something that I've never experienced before. And it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful, and it's because of what I had to experience first to be able to experience this. I'm a completely different person, and I have to be honest with you. I used to be very selfish, and my ego was huge. I used to always thinking what is there for me before doing something. Now I love to be in service. I love to help. If someone says, Ray, I want to work with you, but I've been in situations where they say, I don't have money. I say, okay, I will help you. No problem. If you really want to make a difference in your life, I will help you. And being in those type of situations, it's been more rewarding than my previous life. Let's call it that way. In how I used to feel or enjoy my professional life. I feel more rewarding helping someone. So, all right. So going back to the experience.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So, Ray, take
Yeah.
us through that experience that had this extremely emotional and just powerful impact on you.
Yes. Well, basically, I used all this knowledge that I had, shamanic wisdom, sincere prayer, transcendental meditation. But I have to. It's important to mention that there was a preparation for this. It's not like one day I decided to go to a forest and meditate and boom, something happened. For months I was basically being in a state of consciousness when I was centered. I when I went to see this psychic medium, she said to me, all your chakras are aligned. And at that time, I didn't know anything about chakras. Okay? I didn't know anything about that. It's because of what she told me that I started to read about chakras, But what I'm trying to say is that by having this time for me to slow down and to for self-development. So I learned about CBT, I learned about stress management, health and well-being, mindfulness meditation, and all these tools that help me to remain in a state of peace and calm. So for a long time, I was experiencing no stress at all. So I was in a state of contentment for a long time. And basically I stopped working in the way that I had a break. I left my job, and I was lucky to have the funds to just to have a break without thinking about money. And my wife was very supportive at that time. So for a long time, I was enjoying life, going to do the school run with my children, to spend time with them, to play with them, to go to the park, to go for long walks around nature. And when I look back, I can see that helped me to align my chakras, to find my center and to remain in my center. And I started to take time to cook something that was nutritious, not to eat something in a hurry, to do to exercise myself, to do yoga, to walk around nature, to enjoy life in general. So for many months I was in a way preparing myself for this moment, by mind and my body, to connect with my soul. So when I went to this place, it's a natural reserve called Alton Water in the south of England, beautiful place that I chose because I went on holiday with my family, going camping there, and immediately resonated with me. There are lots of the nature is so vibrant in this place that I really wanted to try to do it there. So that day was a sunny day. That day was very beautiful. We drove there in the camper van. I left my children with my father-in-law, so we had the whole day really to enjoy. And so what I did was to create a sacred space in a place that I knew I was not going to be disturbed, in the middle of nowhere, because it's a natural reserve. So my wife just went for a walk, knowing that I was going to be there. So I started to meditate, this transcendental meditation that I was practicing for a long time. And at some point, I felt like I wanted to lay down to meditate, which is something strange because I always meditate, cross-legged, sitting up, back straight. But for the first time, I felt I wanted to lay down, and I lay down, and I let go of my whole energy, my whole body, and at some point, I can only explain that my soul left my body. I was not in my body. I just felt in very light, in a very peaceful place that I can only describe as a humongous bubble of light. It was like a sphere of light, the size of, I would say, like a small planet. I was tiny in comparison to what is. I was inside this sphere, but I felt microscopically, tiny in this place. And in the middle of this sphere of light was the most majestic being of light that I can only describe like an unfolded abstract lotus flower, an 8-pointed unfolded abstract flower that had the outlines were golden. I have actually I have a picture here. I think it will be, this is from my book, because one of the things that I did was to draw it, after the experience, So this is a picture that I drew of what I saw that day. Of course, it's just a picture in black and white, but it was full of color. It was moving. The center was a white light that was so bright, but I could see with my own eyes. And then at that point, I received like a download. It was like a massive download. I was experiencing a lot of bliss and ecstasy and love. I've never experienced so much love in my life. It was like trying to drink water from a waterfall. I always try to use this analogy because it was just too much. It was a lot of love surrounding me. And I experienced a feeling of oneness that I've never experienced before in my life. I was connected to everything. And there was this profound download, like a knowing that came like in a second, where I had this understanding that we are not our bodies, we are not our minds, that we are soul, that we are light, that we are all brothers and sisters, that we are one. And it was a very strong message that I started to repeat, because my wife, at some point, she came back to check on me, and she was a bit scared because she saw me laying down and she thought something was happening to me. So she came to check on me. I'm very grateful that she didn't interrupt what I was experiencing, because she realized I induced an altered state of consciousness, because my eyes were like moving, but I was laying down, and I told her, don't worry, I'm not using my body at this moment. That's what I said to her. And she didn't know what to think, because it was very strange, of course. But what I'm grateful is that she didn't interrupt what was going on, and she just stayed next to me. But I started to say this out loud. We are soul, we are light. We are one. We're one big family, and no one is left behind. Love is the answer to everything, always. And this was this profound realization that that we all carry this spark of the divine inside of us. It was very clear to me during this time, this knowing that there is only one consciousness, one universal consciousness. It's like a collective soul, and we are all fragments of this energy. But we have forgotten this. We have forgotten this because we are over-identified with our bodies and with our minds, but because we don't even talk about the soul. If you really think about this, I'm so grateful that you have this podcast, because it's so important to talk about our true selves, our essence, that we are soul. We are not our bodies. We are spirit. We're an expression of a spirit in a temporary vessel to experience being humans, just for some time. And then we expand, because we expand when we come to experience these experiences. And then we move on. We can come back as a different expression in a different vessel, or we go somewhere else. But the experience is meant to flow. And it was very clear to me that human beings, humankind, the experience has been stagnant for too long, because we have forgotten that we are a spark of the divine, and the very essence of the soul is freedom to express itself, because all souls are unique. There are no other soul, like the soul that is inside of Julia, or the soul is inside of Leo, or the soul that is inside of me. We are all unique expressions of the one, that we're just experiencing from a specific point of view, but we are unique fragments of this magnificent cosmic puzzle. It's like a cosmic puzzle, and we are all part of this. That's why no one is left behind, because it's impossible for this puzzle to be whole if one of the pieces is not in. So this experience of
Hang tight, guys. We'll be right back.
So this experience of self-realization, because this is what is self-realization, is to wake up and to remember who you really are. But not because you read this in a book, or not because someone told you, but because you have experienced this yourself from direct experience. And this is what, it took me, I'm not going to lie, it took me years to integrate this experience. For months, I didn't know what happened to me that day. For months, I didn't know who to talk about this, because, it was so profound and so unique and so, intense, that, I was lucky that my wife was there with me, because she would have thought I was crazy. If she wouldn't have been there, I have to be honest with you, my wife would have think that, I was mad. But I was lucky that she was there with me, and she saw what I experienced, because when I opened my eyes, I thought that half an hour has, like according to my I don't know, calculation, I thought, okay, it's been half an hour, but it was like 3 hours that happened, since everything started. And then I spoke to my wife and I say, what happened? What did you see happen? And when she told me what she saw me, because I was um, saying things, I was. She said I was talking in a different voice, using a different voice, like I was not myself, and at some point I sit up, I had my eyes closed and I started to talk to her, saying things like passing a message from this divine source to her that were very personal for her, you see, things that, in using words that I would never used, in my life before with a different tone of voice. So it was very, it was really, I mean, it's very difficult to explain, but it was a very powerful experience. And after that, I drew everything, because what I experienced was a vision with a download of information. And I started to repeat words that came to me, but not came because it's like they came like telepathically, I mean, it's difficult to explain, but it was like a massive download that came to me. And after that, I had to take time to reflect of what happened. So I had to draw this. We went back to a camper van and I wrote everything that I remember, and I drew what I saw. But from walking from this place to a camper van, I started to say things. I started to say things like money is an illusion, um, that this world is an illusion. And my wife was a bit puzzled by what was saying, what I was saying at the time. But basically, what that the knowing that came to me is that only love is real. That money is an illusion because money, limits your experience. Depending on how much money you have, you can experience life. If you have a lot of money, maybe you can experience more, but you're still thinking about how much I have. When you don't have enough money, you cannot experience, I don't know, maybe going to a different country or having 2 months traveling around the world. If you don't have the money, you cannot have that experience. So in that way, is an illusion because it limits your experience as a soul. As a soul, we're meant to flow, to experience freely the experience of life. And the same with when I was saying that this world is an illusion, because sometimes when I told this to few people, some people say, well, how can you say this? This is real, but what I experienced in this plane, everything was more real than what you experience with your five senses in this plane. It's like you're watching a television from the 80s, like the quality of the image to the quality of the image of an HD television. The sounds, the feelings, the what you see, what you perceive, everything is more intense in this plane where that I was, for some time. So that was a knowing that came to me, that that was real, and this is just a temporary experience that feels real while you are around here, but really, it's like I always explain this to people. It's like a video game. Okay, when you are playing a video game, the character doesn't know that there's a player controlling the character. The character thing is the character. But when you wake up and you have this moment of self-realization, you realize that you are not the character, that you are the player that is playing the character. And you know the character in the game, if it is in danger or dies, it's like a big drama because it's identified fully with the character. But the player doesn't fall into that drama because the player knows that you can just replay or you can, try again. So in that sense, as souls, we are eternal, but we have forgotten this. This life is just a fraction of what you're going to experience as a soul. The soul is always been and it always will be, because it's a fragment of this great spirit. See? So, after that, it took me a lot of time to integrate this experience. And writing this book that is called, by the way, Love is the Answer, Wake Up Who You Really Are, Embrace Your Truth, and Live the Life You Were Meant to Live, is part of the integration process, really. But I wrote it in a way that a person that is a spiritual seeker, that maybe feels a bit stuck in their spiritual path, because a spiritual path is not easy. People think that having these experiences, these mystical experiences, are all positive and beautiful and, like, I don't know, joyful. Yeah, and it's true that there are that, but also there's a part that you have to integrate. And if you are not prepared or you don't have the knowledge to integrate this information, especially if you are stuck in a dogma or a specific belief or point of view that doesn't allow to explore other paths, because the spiritual path is very different from religion. People get confused religion with spirituality. Spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is your direct connection with your soul. And on paper, religion, says that is that, but each religion has a specific or a particular way to do it. And spirituality, you cannot develop a spirituality if you are going to be just stuck in one book or in one way. With the spirituality, you have to be open to anything. And I've been reading a lot since I had this burnout experience. I started with stress management, but then I started to read other things, and I've read all the spiritual books that are available right now. Well, I cannot say all of them, but I would say from the main religions, I read all of them, because growing up, I grew up in a Catholic country, and you are not allowed to read, not even the Gnostic Gospels, or because they are heretic, or other books. But I've been able to read everything that I saw interesting, or that is considered spiritual, with an open mind, without having any judgments or any preconceptions of that religion. For me, it's like everything.
Just a question for you, Ray.
Yes, of course.
So, can you give us one main message that you want people to take from your book?
Yes. From the title, really, it's all about love. If you think about it, because people ask themselves, who am I? Why I'm here? Love is the answer for everything. Who am I? Love. Why I'm here? To love. Um, how should I live my life? Loving. Everything is about love. We come from love to experience love, to become the highest expression of love, to go back to love. It's all about love. One of the realizations that I had that day is that this energy that I saw, that you can call it, I call it the great spirit, but you can call it the universal consciousness, divine source, any name you would prefer to use. This energy is love. And there was a moment when I wanted to look at my hand when I was in this plane. And I saw the shape of my hand, but inside was light, the same light that was inside this spiritual being in front of me. So my understanding was very clear. We are the same energy. And this great spirit is pure love. And many people say, well, why there are so many problems, injustices, conflicts in the world if it's all about love? Because we're here to experience all the shades of love. The only way that you know what love is knowing what love is not. So we have to experience the other side of the coin, because it's all part of this sacred process. I always refer to this beautiful parable that is the parable of the prodigal son. I'm sure many people are familiar with, that tells the story of a son that wants to explore the world. So he goes and asks his father if he could have his inheritance, early, to be able to live this, place he calls home. So he goes and explores the world, see? And he experiences everything. He experiences good and bad, at some point there's a famine, and he basically is very poor. He loses everything, and at some point he remembers, home, and with humility he goes back to the father, and he asks for forgiveness and to be able to be back, home. And the father was always waiting for his son to come back. And the father never judges the son. The father is waiting and embracing the son, loving the son unconditionally. And this is so important, because this love, what I'm talking about, is divine love, that is unconditional love. As human beings, we have a very narrow view of what love is, because unconditional love is not promoted in our society. What is promoted is conditional love. I love you if you love me. I love you if you do this, but I won't love you if you do that. If you see the movies, songs, love is, sometimes portrayed as something that makes you suffer, or that, it's conditional love. And this love that I'm talking about, the love is the answer, is unconditional love. And This is a message I would like to share with everybody, that what we are, in essence, our souls, the spark of the great spirit, is divine love, unconditional love. And it's time for us to remember this. We are through a moment that we are shifting our collective consciousness. If you see around the world, you can see that one of the messages that I received is that we are in this crossroad at the moment as human beings, a very important crossroad in the evolution of our consciousness. That's why I was invited to share this message, because at that day I was invited to share this with anyone who has an open heart to hear this message. That is time. It's time to evolve to a higher state of consciousness, or to repeat the illusion of separation, the dream of separation. We have two options, two choices: the path of love or the path of fear. And as human beings, we've been walking the path of fear for a long time. If you see what is going around the world, we had 2 world wars already. For me, it's just, it's not, it's very sad to see that we are, I'm not saying everybody, but the people, our leaders, are poking for another world war. And this puts us in a situation where we have to decide what path are we going to choose. The path of love, that is going to help us to create a better reality for everybody, not just for a group of people. We are one big family. We are one big family. We are all brothers and sisters. What you do to others, you do it to yourself, because the other person is you in another body, in essence. So there's no us and them. There's only us. That's the illusion. The illusion is the illusion of separation. That, yes, sorry, Leo.
Julia, did you have a question?
Sorry.
I do. So Ray, you had said something earlier about us being, I think you said like a spark of like the divine, right? And I actually, a little, I guess, scientific, because I like the sciencey stuff too. At conception, when there's that union, there's actually a spark of light. So they've actually looked at that in that moment where conception happens, there's this spark. So I love that you said that, like, we're a spark of the divine. Like, that's almost like, how does that magically happen, that things combine like that? And like, you're creating a human being. Like, it's pretty cool. But my question is that, you're speaking about love, and I think not so much as an emotion, but kind of as a state of being. And I guess that if someone listening is feeling, I guess, like lost or disconnected from their soul, what do you think is the first, like, gentle step back toward love that you would invite them to take?
The first step is to develop self-love. Self-love is the cornerstone of everything, because you cannot give what you don't have. And I can tell you this from my own direct experience. When I was experiencing these horrible times of stress and anxiety, at that time I didn't know, but I didn't have, much self-love in the way that I didn't put myself. I mean, I'm not saying this from an egoistic point of view, okay? But for me, first was my job, and second, my job, and third, maybe money, fourth, maybe my family. In that way, because I was programmed to think that security was how much money you had in the bank, just in case something bad happened. At that time, we were bombarded in the news about Brexit and about, lots of negative things, like always. The news, they basically bombard you with negative stuff all the time. So I don't watch the news at all for years now. And I do it is actually out of self-love. But now for me, it's about taking time, okay, to know yourself, your true self. If you are experiencing depression or anxiety or any difficulties in your life, it's because you need to slow down and you need to take time for yourself. In the way, go for a walk around nature, just you and yourself. Just go around nature and talk to yourself like you are your best friend. Open your heart. When you are in that situation of depression or anxiety, you close your heart. And when you close your heart, you suffer, because love cannot flow from a closed heart. You have to gently and slowly open your heart by know yourself. This is something that many spiritual teachers have taught us in the history of humanity. Know yourself. But I'm talking about the real one, the one that is inside your heart, because we are taught to make decisions with our minds and not to follow your heart. But your heart is the door to your soul. So when you close your heart and you don't follow your heart, that is your compass. Yes, we are born and we forget, because it's all part of the journey. You have to forget to experience life. Okay? You cannot remember your previous lifetimes, because then you will be confused. There's a lesson in every lifetime that you come to experience. But your heart is your compass, and your heart will tell you, that is called instinct. It will tell you where to go. But when you are suffering, it's because you have ignored your heart for a long time. And that's what happened to me. My heart was telling me, you don't like working in sales and marketing, for years. This is not who you are. Trying to convince people to sell something that they don't need so you can make a commission and make money. I was basically betraying my true self. My true self is about service. It's about helping others, about connecting from the heart to other hearts. And that's why I feel joy by being a soul coach, because this is true to my true self. So go for a walk, but not once, every day. Take 20 minutes just to turn off your mobile phone, forget about the external world, because it's about going within. And it's difficult at the beginning because the mind is very loud and it will tell you things. You're wasting your time. What are you doing? And it will tell you lots of sorts of things because you are not used to that. But you have to quiet the mind to be able to open your heart. If you learn to quiet your mind, I would recommend everyone to learn meditation. Anyone can do it. It's a beautiful art that is like anything else. It takes practice, but once you learn how to do it, it really opens a completely new world. Yes, Leo.
Ray, I want to thank you. We both want to thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. Did you have another question, Julia?
So yes, but also a little bit of, I think, kind of wrapping things in a little
Yeah.
bit. Ray, if you could offer just like one gentle blessing to the souls listening, those who are awakening, those who are doubting, maybe those who are like just quietly searching, what would you want them to know about love and who they truly are?
Well, first of all, I would like to tell them that whatever they are experiencing is all part of their journey, and they are meant to experience this because the spiritual journey is not. It's a cosmic dance. Okay, it's not light versus darkness. It's not like it's a dance. So you will experience different shades of light and different shades of darkness. It's like a seed. A seed cannot grow. It has to grow in darkness. But after some time, it will emerge to the light. So it's all part of a journey. So it doesn't matter where you are at the moment. Just always remember that love is the answer to everything. If you have any difficulty, any problem, love is the answer. And remembering that the soul doesn't grow in an environment that is comfortable. The soul only grows when there are moments of tribulation, because that's the only way we are challenged to change and to transform and to expand. There's no lotus flower if there's no mud. So wherever you are in your journey, just remember that you are not alone, because the Great Spirit is always with you, is within, always. And it's unconditional love. Doesn't matter what you are going through, doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter, if you are carrying guilt, or it's unconditional love, like the father in the prodigal son. It will always be waiting there for you to embrace you, always.
I love that. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. And Leo, because we haven't done this yet,
Yep.
hey everyone, please like, subscribe, share, and Ray, where what's the best way for people to reach you or to get in touch with you? Again, the book is Love is the Answer. So if you want to just share that bit of information, what's the best way? Website, email?
Yes, I have a website, www.rayoflight.online, and I help people from around the world with, doing soul coaching in English and Spanish. If people would like to know more details about my journey and the mystical experience that I had, basically all in details with drawings and all details of how I prepare myself is in this book called Love is the Answer. Wake up who you really are, embrace your truth, and live the life you were meant to live. Is available in Amazon and in all online bookshops. And this book was written with lots of love for my brothers and sisters. And I will really invite everyone that maybe something resonated with them during this podcast to read this book, because I wrote this book in a way that accompanies the reader in this journey. It's like 28 chapters, that is 28 steps that finishes the book with a meditation that I developed to connect with the Great Spirit. So there is, doesn't matter if you are very advanced spiritually or you are just starting, this book can help you to connect with the Great Spirit your own way, in the intimacy of your own heart, because every journey is unique, and mine is just one of many. There are different paths, but I wanted to share my path because I think it can inspire others to also connect with the Great Spirit, and this is one of the messages I received, because after that day I've been receiving a lot of messages during dreams, during meditations, and I journal everything. That's another thing I recommend, to journal everything, because there are things that will come to you, and it's always perfect, full of synchronicities. But sometimes when you receive the message, you don't understand. But when you journal it, maybe a month later you will read it and you'll say, "Oh my God, this is it." It will make sense, because then you will see the pieces coming together. And imagine how our world would be if every single one of us will know that the Great Spirit is within. How things will be in the world, how we will treat each other, how we will be treating Mother Earth, how it will be completely different, knowing in your heart that we are all one, and we are all invited to journey within to discover our true selves. And I really appreciate this opportunity, Leo and Julia, for having me here today, sharing this message. I really, really enjoy your podcast. I love the name of it, and how you talk about the soul. That is so important, to talk freely and to remind people that we are soul and that we are one.
Thank you, Ray. And mucho gusto. Y Dios lo bendiga.
Muy bien. Muchas gracias.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll have Ray's contact information in the show notes. And thanks again for tuning in. Bye for now, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to Mystery of the Soul. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you have a question, topic suggestion, or just want to say hi, we'd love to hear from you. You can visit our website at mysteryofthesoul.com. Reach us on Instagram, email us at mysteryofthesoulpodcast@gmail.com, and if you're interested in booking a session with Leo, visit his website at leojmccarthy.com.